The man did it again. I mean, he just finds new and creative ways to just beat down Toronto every night. And your thoughts on the game you saw and the ending?
He just has their number, and the things that he does against them appears to demoralize them in ways that it never demoralizes anybody. Somehow, some way, when LeBron does what he does, it seems to just inflict such tremendous harm psychologically to the Toronto Raptors that I think it's safe to say they're done, they're finished. This is what he does to the Toronto Raptors in a way he doesn't do it to any other team in the league. He might show greatness, he might put up great numbers, but against this particular team, he just demoralizes them. It's hard to imagine, but against them, he does it all the time.
How about Kyle Lowry, 26 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, the longest tenured Raptor. He was such a part of all the tortured playoff history this team has had, often at the hands of LeBron James and the Cavaliers.
As you can hear from the announcer, this was the moment the Toronto Raptors became the NBA champions after suffering at the hands of LeBron James for 3 years. DJ Khaled said this is how they spell Toronto.
How do you spell Toronto? Drake.
But for basketball fans, and specifically Raptors fans, this was not how they knew Toronto, because even Drake's sideline antics that seemed to work on the Golden State Warriors and Giannis just couldn't work on the best player in the league. For 3 consecutive years, when the playoffs came around, Toronto wasn't Drake's town. No, it was LeBron's. And it wasn't just Toronto anymore, it was Lebronto. In recent Toronto Raptors history, there have been a few major events, like the trade of DeMar DeRozan, who was the Raptors franchise player and beloved star that was sent to the Spurs for Kawhi Leonard in what was a shocking trade. The firing of coach Dwayne Casey in 2018 was another major event, and of course we also have the 2019 NBA Championship, which was won by Toronto. All these significant moments in Raptors history had LeBron James written all over them in one way or another. If anyone is to tell of the greatness and dominance of LeBron James, it's the Raptors, because they were his victims time and time again. When I say all this, I don't mean to be disrespectful to the Raptors or their fans or even Canada, but Lebronto was a real thing, more real than those 2 rings that KD has. For a short summary of what Lebronto is basically a 3-year run when LeBron absolutely owned the Toronto Raptors in the playoffs. In 3 playoff meetings with the Raptors, LeBron played them 14 times and won 12 games, including 10 straight playoff wins. The first time the Raptors ever faced LeBron in the playoffs was actually the closest they ever came to beating him. It was a 6-game series which the Cavs won, but for the next 2 years, LeBron showed them that he had figured them out and swept them twice while putting up impressive stats. And I know what some of you may be wondering, like, okay, so he beat the Raptors for 3 straight years, cool. But isn't it a bit dramatic to name a whole city after this man for beating the team? And actually, that's a valid question. In fact, LeBron has torn apart multiple franchises. He did the same thing to Gilbert Arenas and the Wizards, and when he sent them home for 3 straight years and forced them to rebuild, and even the Bulls, whom he sent home 4 times and also forced them to rebuild while sending their stars and coach into Eastern Conference exile. But the reason it is Lebronto we speak of is not just because he beat them, but because of how he beat them, and how deeply demoralizing LeBron's playoff runs were to the Raptors. Like Stephen A. Smith always said, LeBron had their number. He had figured them out, and it was just too easy for him. Take, for instance, the first playoff series between these 2 teams. In Game 5 of the 2016 playoffs, LeBron showed the Raptors just how much he had figured them out. In a real sense, this game was the beginning of Lebronto, because after this, he never lost any single game to them. On one possession, the Raptors were trying to run an out-of-bounds play and one Raptors player forgot the play, and LeBron realized this. So what do you think LeBron did? A. Noticed the confusion and decided to let the Raptors mess up their own play, or B. Tried to take advantage of the Raptors' confusion and maybe got a steal or stop, or C. Showed the player what he was doing wrong and how he can correct his mistakes. And the correct answer is C. LeBron showed this player his mistake and showed him what he was actually supposed to do. Instead of taking advantage of the miscommunication, LeBron went ahead and explained to him what the play was. So LeBron basically showed this man how to try and beat him. He was like, here, try and beat me. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't believe this story, watch DeMar DeRozan talk about it.
I don't know if I even told nobody other than my close circle. I remember it was it was a play we was trying to run, and one of our teammates forgot the play, and Bron told him the play. Like, it was some crazy stuff. We called it a play, and he was like, "What?" And Bron told him what our play was.
As if doing this once isn't disrespectful enough, LeBron did it again. The story I just shared with you was from the 2016 playoffs, but the former Cavs GM, and no, I'm not talking about LeBron, I'm talking about David Griffin, shared another story and talked about something similar that took place the next year in the 2017 playoffs. He said, "I was in the gym when I watched him on the floor against Toronto tell Patrick Patterson where he was supposed to go on the play they had called out of a timeout, late in the fourth quarter. He was like, 'No, Pat, you're supposed to stand over there and set a pin down for DeMar over here.'" The disrespect, bruh. And LeBron's advice didn't seem to be helpful either because he swept them that year. And if for some reason you think this is LeBron being a gentleman on the court, or if you think that Lebronto is still a far-fetched idea, I've got more for you. The next year, LeBron was without Kyrie, and his team was not good to say the least. The Raptors had the #1 record in the East, so if there was a time to beat LeBron, it was then. And for the Raptors, it was at least make it to the finals or bust. He had already sent them home twice, and he had sunned them so much that NBA media was even asking the Raptors president Masai Ujiri if Toronto's team building was dictated by LeBron.
How much of your decision-making process and roster building changes here is dictated by Cleveland LeBron James?
But at a time when LeBron was supposed to be the most beatable, he was perhaps the most dominant and disrespectful he had ever been against the Raptors. Even with a seemingly less talented squad, LeBron still swept them. And it's not like he was trying extremely hard to sweep them. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I think it was almost too easy for him. In the fourth quarter of Game 2, LeBron, who usually gets his easy buckets by driving to the paint, decided that was too boring and he needed a challenge. Remember when Michael Jordan was at the free throw line and decided to take a free throw with his eyes shut? Or, I don't know if you know this, but in the 80s, Larry Bird, who was right-handed, decided to play a whole game shooting with just his left hand, only to finish with 47 points and a triple-double. Well, LeBron also decided to go deep into his bag of disrespectful tricks, and in the fourth of Game 2, he decided to use only one move, the fadeaway jump shot. So this happened.
Like I told you, I took him 2 shots to make the shot from the tunnel.
He's in full rhythm right now, backing down Lowry. Heat check.
Have his way here.
LeBron fades away. Oh! LeBron coming off the Thompson screen. Fade away. Backing down DeRozan. There's that fadeaway on James.
He went on to absolutely scorch the Raptors using just that one move. He scored 12 points with it and blew out the Toronto Raptors in Toronto. The whole place was absolutely quiet and fans were all stunned. LeBron had shut down the whole arena, city, and country, and he finished with 43 points and 14 assists. Now, I dare you to tell me that's not disrespectful, like LeBron was having his way with this team. And this was actually kind of sad because in the game before this, the Raptors had managed to push the game into overtime, so they probably thought that they had a chance to win and thought that the game had slipped through their fingers. But at least they had the next game, which was Game 3, to try and shift the momentum back on their side. But in another close game in the fourth, this happened.
3 seconds to go. Throws up the floater. Good night.
In my opinion, this was the game Lebronto came into full effect. In this game, the Raptors were defeated mentally more than ever before. And yeah, they were swept after the Cavs blew them out in Game 4. And to add insult to injury, LeBron had faced the Pacers in the first round and they had taken the Cavs to 7 games, and the Celtics also took the Cavs to 7 games in the conference finals. The Warriors, as we all know, swept the Cavs in the finals, and this was without a doubt one of LeBron's toughest playoff runs. But the only team that LeBron and the Cavs seemingly had a smooth ride with was the #1 team in the East, the Raptors, whom they swept. After this, the Raptors coach Dwayne Casey was fired, and DeMar DeRozan, who is one of the best Raptors of all time and a fan favorite, was traded to the Spurs. Of course, they made the addition of Kawhi Leonard, and all the losses were worth it in the end when the Raptors won the championship. And most importantly, LeBron left the Eastern Conference, and I don't care what anybody says, that definitely improved the Raptors' chances. And you know, because I know some people will mention it in the comments, I can't talk about Lebronto and not address California, which is basically the fact that LeBron has not won a game against Kyle Lowry and the Raptors since he joined the Lakers. But the difference between California and Lebronto is that LeBron has not failed to win a championship because of these Raptors. That's it for the video though. If you want to watch how J.R. Smith wasted LeBron's historic performance, or 3 dunks by LeBron that are even better with context, click here on the screen. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you think about it, and consider subscribing. But until next time, peace.